all we know. And what we're doing is, of course, making sure that the CPD and local law enforcement are aware of what they're doing, so they can, one, make sure they're not standing anywhere near those actions or assisting in those actions, but also being ready for protests that might occur. And then, very importantly, we've asked for the public to be ready with your iPhone and any way that you can to record what's going on in their neighborhoods by ICE, because we think that's the best way to demonstrate what ICE is doing if they're doing something wrong, or to keep them honest and doing the right thing because they know they're being watched.
What type of protection are you offering the community outside of getting upset?
Well, as you know, we cannot stand in the way. It's not like we're going to have armed men standing in between. That's not something that's legal. That's not something that the state of Illinois can engage in or the city of Chicago can engage in. What we're trying to do is to get them to follow the law, and when they are not following the law, we can take them to court, prosecute them if they're doing something truly illegal, which one of the things we're very concerned about is, you saw what happened in LA. There was a whole lot of activity that appeared to be illegal. And so some of that went to court in California. Some decisions have already been made, at least about National Guard, and some of those court cases are still ongoing. So we're going to do everything we can to protect people's safety. That is something that the Chicago Police Department, Illinois State Police, and other local law enforcement are responsible for, but can't stand in the way of the execution of, for example, a warrant that ICE is trying to execute.
Yeah, Marianne. There are those critics who are saying this is all politically. You won't call the president because you have your own aspirations that would look weak. How do you respond to that?
That's silly. That is absolutely ridiculous. Let me be clear. The president is begging me to call him to ask him to do something that we don't want. He wants me to call him and ask him to call in National Guard to the city of Chicago. We don't want it. So that's why I'm not calling the president. I have been very clear about what we do want. What we do want is civilian law enforcement assistance. We want to make sure that we have enough FBI, ATF, DEA on the ground. We have some already, as you know. They do really good work, working in tandem with state police, working in tandem with Chicago Police Department. But we can use more. We can interdict more drugs and more guns that are coming across the border into the city, into the state of Illinois. And there's more work that we can do to make sure that we're fighting crime with, again, civilian law enforcement. And I've been very clear about that. The president wants me to call him about National Guard. I'm not going to do that.
Yeah. You talked yesterday about picnics and parades specifically. Can you tell us sort of where that intel comes from? Because our station's been talking to parade organizers today, and they say, as far as they know, there's no reason to believe that's a threat. Can you tell us where your information comes from?
Look, I'm not going to tell you where it comes from, and it's not because it doesn't exist. It's because we've gotten calls from people who don't want to reveal their names to the public. These are people from inside the administration or inside the military or inside the National Guard who are concerned about what's happening in this country. These are patriots who want us to know what's happening. We're getting no information from the federal government, and all we got was one call from Gregory Bovino, who let us know that ICE would be instituting actions in the city of Chicago without any details at all. So I want to be clear. I'm not going to reveal where we're getting this information from, but I am going to be communicative to the public about what we have heard and what we do know so that they can be prepared themselves. Olivia.
Thank you. Governor Abbott yesterday, after your comments, basically denied that the Texas National Guard is being staged. I wonder if you can respond to that.
Yeah, guess what? When they want to federalize, sorry, I just want to respond to that because I've heard this. When they want to federalize the National Guard, they do not call the governor. They call the National Guard. There is a National Guard Bureau in Washington, D.C. that operates with all of the National Guards across the country. They start there, and they work through the National Guard. So I'm not suggesting that I am absolutely certain of whether or not the Texas National Guard will in fact end up in the state of Illinois. What I know is that we've been told by people who seem to have the credentials to know that that is what is happening. If he wants to deny it, the governor of Texas, let's just take into account that he has not been a good actor at all toward the state of Illinois. So I don't really trust anything that he is saying in this moment. Yes.
I'm calling the president. You said something to the effect yesterday, you don't want to be part of the spectacle. But President Trump tends to like a show.
The spectacle, yeah.
Don't you think if you maybe called him, you could lower the temperature in all of this, and you could ask for the civilian resources, the law enforcement, non-military resources that you just talked about? For example, sir, if you were president and you wanted someone to call you, wouldn't you want them to call you?
No, I would pick up the phone and call them. I don't understand why everybody doesn't understand this. It's as if he's begging me to call him because he wants me to ask him for National Guard. That is what he is trying to do. There's a second reason, and you should pay close attention to this. He wants to set into the fact pattern that the governor called him to ask for help. Why? Because he's going to end up in court. He's going to end up in court. And that will be a fact that they will use in court, that the governor called to ask for help. And I'm sorry, I'm not going to provide him with evidence to support his desire to have the court rule in his favor. I'm just not going to do that. Shia.
This morning, Trump said, maybe he may be listening to you, he said he wants to go to states where the governors do want him and that they might go to New Orleans. And it's not clear whether he meant instead of Chicago or in addition to Chicago. Are you hearing anything about that?
Now, I think it's possible that he actually heard about the decision in the California case about National Guard. I mean, I know the man doesn't read much, but maybe somebody told him about it. And that decision was that, no, you cannot create a nationalized police force out of the National Guard and send them in wherever you want to. That is illegal. Posse comitatus. Period. Everybody should look that up. You cannot do criminal investigations or law enforcement with our military. And that is what that case held. That is what the law already says. And I think he is just, I mean, he may have actually heard that. So where can he go? Well, where a governor asks for help or asks for the National Guard to come in. I want to point out one other thing. The governor of Louisiana doesn't need the President of the United States to call out his National Guard to deal with crime. A governor can call out, I called out the National Guard. I've done it several times. I did it when we had protests that got out of control in the city of Chicago. I've done that before as a governor. Governor of Louisiana can do that too. So you should pay attention to, he's looking for circumstances in which the governor is willing to call out the National Guard so that he can look like he's getting something done. The governor of Louisiana can do that on his own, doesn't need the president to ask him to do it.
Thank you so much.